just kind of wrapping up this morning and talking about through that and just really trying to encourage anybody that might be listening to this, that, and especially if you're a father of any child, like the power that you have over that child's trajectory in life is one of the most humbling and beautiful responsibilities that I think that a father could ever be given, or a man in general could ever be given. And I just want to encourage anybody that's listening to this that is a father, that, you are more powerful than you can ever imagine.
Welcome to our very first episode of the
Dad Show.
The Dad Show. The Dad Experience, the Dad Show. Leave in the comments what you think.
Yeah, right? If it's a show or an experience, let us know.
Yeah.
Let us know.
And also, not only are we going to put this on YouTube, but I can strip just the audio.
Okay.
And then have it on different. I have to set up everything, but we can have it on different platforms, and you can listen on the Apple's podcasting, all that jazz. So,
great. So a couple different places we can be found.
Yeah, so you can listen on the way in your car if you want.
Awesome.
This is the new rule for your staff.
Yeah.
On the way here, you need to listen to the podcast, and we're going to ask you questions before you even get in.
Right.
When you get in, we're going to ask you questions.
Yeah. Required learning is usually always a good practice.
It is.
People usually have their listening ears on when you got to listen.
I want to hear what my boss says, so when I get to work, I'm going to tell him all the stuff that he said wrong.
Yeah, not egotistical at all, right?
No.
Learn from me. I know something.
I mean, that's basically your job.
Right. Yeah. So, I think this is like this journey, this adventure that we are embarking on. I think, just to kind of give a little bit of a backstory on, us and kind of how we've met and our relationship, where how it's grown. And
we probably should introduce ourselves.
Yeah. Right. My name is Steven Fedor. I was born out in the Los Angeles area, grew up in Tennessee, middle of nowhere, Tennessee, really. When we moved there, my family and I, this was over 20 years ago, Middle Tennessee was like just cow farms, hog farms. Like there was not a lot of growth in Tennessee. It was a very agricultural state. The county that we moved to was the nursery capital of the world, just to give you kind of an idea of just how much greenery, bushes, trees, all that stuff that was being grown in that area. So like polar opposites from, LA, where
100%.
You can't, shower for more than an hour.
Can't even find any grass.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, gravel is the grass, in LA. So, we experienced mosquitoes for the first time, which was that was a shock.
Mosquitoes for the first time.
Yeah, man, like it was bad.
I'm the kind of person that doesn't. I go to probably Antarctica and get bit by a mosquito. Like mosquitoes love me.
They're probably really bad. The mosquitoes in Antarctica. If they're anything like the mosquitoes up in North Dakota, they're probably really bad.
Oh, we're not going on this trip now.
Yeah. if they could survive Antarctica's like conditions, those are some tough mosquitoes, man. And we probably shouldn't be there if those mosquitoes live there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I grew up in actually a bunch of different churches, a bunch of different belief systems. Most of them, we believe that God was God and Jesus was the Messiah. But Seventh-day Adventist, we went to a Seventh-day Adventist church for a while. I've actually never been to a Jewish like synagogue and actually went through a traditional Jewish service, which is kind of interesting. I've been there for like other people's bar mitzvahs, but never actually like went and worshipped at a Jewish synagogue. But so that's a little bit about me. I've lived like all over the country. I have 7 siblings, so come from a little bit of a larger family. My family is also very blended, so we've got my parents were both married once before they adopted my cousin, as they were getting married, and then they decided to have 3 children of their own. So, lots of blessings having such a blended family. But and then I moved here to Cincinnati almost 5 years ago now, and Shortly after that, I met Dustin.
Has it been 5 years?
Yeah. And shortly after I met Dustin, I met my wife. We ended up getting married back in October of 2022. And then we had our first child, Jacob. He's my firstborn. So, yeah, a little bit about me. That's it. So, Dustin, yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
Name is Dustin. I grew up in South Chicago. I come from a Jewish family as well. I didn't go to temple until I was probably like 12 or had a bar mitzvah at 13. And so I probably started going to temple. My family was like, the bar mitzvah was like, you probably should be in temple every once in a while. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Went to temple, traditional, 100% traditional. Well, I could say like not conservative, like straight on the liberal side, the Jewish faith, but not Orthodox, not conservative.
Sure.
So I went to temple, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, those services, long. I remember getting in a lot of trouble during those. I could picture myself and a friend when we were learned how to read Hebrew during that time. I mean, it took me like 1 month to learn how to read all the Hebrew that I needed to for my bar mitzvah. I don't remember any of that now, but
sure.
And I never like, it's funny because I could never understand what I was reading, but I knew the alphabet and I could read it. Like make sure I had the vowels. If you put in front of me, I could be able to read it pretty. Not I want to say fluently, but like I could butcher through all of the Hebrew, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a funny story when I actually had a bar mitzvah, when you have to read the Torah because there's no vowels in the Torah, and I was like, man, I was lost. And I remember my rabbi, he would just whisper what I needed to say, and I would just repeat it. I couldn't make it through.
Man, he was looking out for you.
Yeah, because I could. Yeah, he what if bar mitzvah was like a pass or fail?
Yeah, yeah.
To get to the end. Sorry, guys, he didn't make it. Fail. We'll see you next year. He's not a man for another year.
I was just gonna say it's like Groundhog Day.
Yeah, he's not even a man yet.
Not yet.
Nope. Learn those vowels. So yeah, no. So, but when I say Jewish faith, it wasn't like didn't have any curls and didn't follow any laws or any rules or any of that. It was more of just get a bar mitzvah, went to temple. That was pretty much the gist of it, and barely even went to temple. Then fast forward, we moved to Indiana. I had a daughter very young when I was 17. She's about to be 24 this year, and here in the next few months.
Wow.
And yeah,
that's awesome.
She's great. And so I then I ended up fast forward through all the mess, became a Christian. That's a story in itself. And then moved to Cincinnati. And then I've lived in Texas for a little while, moved to Virginia for a little while. But Cincinnati just came. That's where I went to college. Me and my wife, she stayed here from school, and I kind of just came back, and then I've kind of been in Cincinnati area ever since. And there's a lot of stories to unpack in that throughout there. Hopefully, maybe we'll get to them eventually throughout all of these podcasts. But it's not the Dustin Show, and I would be here forever.
Sure. Well. And, you kind of are bringing up some great points about, kind of the purpose of this podcast, like what we really are wanting to accomplish. And, something that's been on my heart and I've shared with you for probably 3 years ago now. We had talked about having a podcast, and at that time, something that I had felt really burdened with was just men's mental health.
Oh yeah.
I think that, our society, especially like here in America, I think we've done a great job of trying to uplift and build people up. And unfortunately, us guys, I think, men, have been kind of pushed to the curb. And, I want to be a voice for men. I also want to be a voice for fathers. getting to experience that. And that's one of the things that I love about, both of us, is that we both are fathers, 2 sons.
Yeah.
So we're not wanting to kind of speak outside of any kind of expertise, or I'm not a psychiatrist. I have no formal education, right?
Sure.
In any kind of counseling or anything like that. So, this podcast is really just designed for just conversation.
Yeah.
We want to talk. We want to share things with the audience. We want to connect with you guys, and the whole goal is for God to be glorified and for us to be able to lift each other up and strengthen, that journey, right?
Sure.
To just be courageous and go after what we believe God has called us to accomplish with our lives. So, I'm sure that those, your testimony and the things that you've been able to experience in your life, they'll come out, and,
Sure.
and God will be glorified through that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think, with this first episode, I was really trying to think through of what would we even really talk about? What would we want to share? And something that you and I both have in common is that we actually both had a bar mitzvah. Huh. And so I wanted to just kind of share a little bit of what that experience was like for me, kind of the ideology that was taught to me when I was that age, and then just share a little bit about what that ceremony even looked like. And here again, right? This is not espousing that everybody should go get a bar mitzvah, right? Every young boy does not have to have a bar mitzvah to be closer to God, right?
Sure.
What I love about the ideology of a bar mitzvah and a bat mitzvah is that when a child reaches that age, traditionally what is told to them is that this is the day that you are officially becoming responsible for your actions before God. Right? So it's almost like you're being given a mantle, right? And being told, okay, now your relationship with God, now it's on you, right? Now your actions are going to be what determines your salvation, right? And now, we've all come to
I did it for the money.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I remember that.
Wait, there was money involved?
Trust me, I didn't make a lot of money. Some of these people get a lot of money for their bar mitzvah. I probably got $1,500 or something like that.
Nice.
I remember it's off topic, but I remember the next day, I was counting all my money, and I think being a friend, we went to an arcade, a game, like a Dave and Buster's kind of deal,
Sure.
in Chicago, wherever it was, and I was like, Mom, I want to go, just drop us off, and we were like
$1,500,
I was
man.
like, I'm a man now. Drop me off at this place. No, honestly, but I was like, drop me off, and man, I remember getting a bunch of money.
Man,
I had my bar mitzvah pictures and everything in my certificate, and I used to carry it around, but I moved so much and it just got lost. All that stuff got lost. It was kind of frustrating. I actually think I have my bar mitzvah on a cassette tape. My grandfather passed away, and I think it's in the car actually. And he, my grandma gave me the tape, the actual just the audio.
Yeah.
I never listened to it. I don't even know if, in 2024, I don't even know if a cassette player even exists.
A cassette, are you talking about the VHS?
No,
or
I wish it was video. I wish video would be great, but it would audio, so just cassette tape. You know what I mean?
Got
just
it.
And if run your finger when
Yeah,
the tape gets
yeah.
rewind. Yeah,
I remember,
That,
man, those using to get all jammed up.
Yes.
Oh my God,
Had
you'd
to-
be sitting there forever just trying to not rip the tape.
So but I never listened to it. I think like I said, I think it's still in the car for years. It's just I put it there. I never did anything with it. I probably should listen.
Yeah,
But
I don't think mine was recorded. So I actually shared my bar mitzvah with 2 other young men that at the time I was actually I think they had 7 boys and 4 daughters. This family that I had and there was 2 young men that were my age, Josh and Caleb, and we ended up, and I think Nate. Yeah, there was 3 of them actually. There was Josh, Caleb, and Nate, and then me. So there was 4 of us that all had our bar mitzvah at the same time. and we were celebrating the Feast of Trumpets
Okay.
when we did that. And so we were there was like a whole congregation that had gone out, and we were camping on this property, and they had it was like a venue hall on the property, but there was like nothing else on the property. Like people would go there and camp and stuff, and then they would just use like the venue hall to like cook and bathe and all of that stuff.
Sure.
It was all built into the venue hall, but yeah, and there was no money. There was no money.
No money.
Yeah,
You're like, I'm calling my mom. I'm calling my mom right now because I feel like she owes me some money.
yeah. Oh, my mom's definitely made up for it, in my
I
life
know.
since then. But
Remember, like a lot of people gave checks. I don't know if it was like $29, $26, $13. I forget. There was a number that it was associated with the bar mitzvah, like something. I don't think it was 13, but it was like 20. It was like a significant number. I can't think of it, but there was like.
yeah.
But I got some good. We had a part. I had a bar mitzvah. It was just me. It was just my. Like,
There
I
is
shared nothing with nobody. I'm just kidding. So it's just me. Yeah, man.
Traditionally, there is a monetary amount. You are correct. It's like it is a specific number that you're supposed to give.
Yeah, it's like it was like I feel like it was like 29, 20, 16. Those were what the cheap people gave it. It's like
Sure.
I wanted the $100 ones and the
Oh, yeah.
$1,000.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was like
The gifts that I got. So we got up there, and the four of us read the Torah portion, and then so my parents gave me my first talit at that time. So we had like the whole where I held it up, I said the blessing, and then I put it on for the first time, and then they also gave me a promise ring when I was that 13 for my bar mitzvah as well. Those were the two gifts that I received, and I think my mom, I feel like she gave me my Bible at that time too. So my dad had this like leather-bound American Standard Version Bible that had a concordance in it as well.
okay.
And I loved it because growing up, one of the things my mom had me do every day, because I was homeschooled for like handwriting, she made me write in cursive a chapter of the Bible every day, right? So 5 days a week, I was writing a chapter of the Bible.
And cursive.
In cursive, yeah, 100%. And my mom still actually has like binders of the books of Bible, I think, still at home. We had several floods growing up that might have damaged some of them.
that.
Yeah, but that was always something like writing in cursive, man. I hated it. But
Yeah, I like it's funny. Have you ever tried? Like I can write in cursive, but I'm like, I don't even know what this even, because nobody writes in cursive really anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's just not it's a skill. But this is off topic. We'll probably do that a lot in this podcast.
Sure.
But my wife actually started Theo on cursive. She says that it's better for your kids. Because I was like, why? Because I was like, we went back and forth on this. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But I guess cursive is better for your brain to learn. I don't know if he still does cursive, because one, trying to teach a 5-year-old cursive, let alone how to write, letters.
Yeah.
But cursive, it does something to your brain that it's better for you to learn.
yeah, it's the fluid movement.
And you have to think harder. You have to there's a lot of thinking that's involved. I don't think she still does it. Maybe it was too against the grain. Trying to I feel for teachers.
Yeah.
Teaching young people how to do like the beginning stuff. Oof.
Yeah.
So
It probably requires a ton of patience. I have no idea how my mom homeschooled like 6 of us for most of our education. Like, no clue how she did that.
Our first, like, Theo, like he has his days. He's 5, he's 6, he has his days. But she's like, we make it through homeschooling, and they learn a lot. But Thaddeus, she's like, I don't know if I can homeschool this kid. Like, he is like, there was a meme that we saw the other day. It was your first child, or when mom yells and raises her voice, the first child's crying and the second child's just laughing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And literally, that's the dynamic of most families. And our second child, I love him. No, I'm his favorite. It's funny. Like,
Nice.
Last night, I was like, okay, you have to pick one.
Yeah.
And I was messing with him, and I was like, I was like, he has this Foxy, and I was like, Legos or Foxy? He was like, both. I'm like, no, you have to pick one. And then I was like, all right, fine, Legos or mommy? Legos. Foxy or mommy? And he never, like, he's anti-girl. Like, he is he's like the typical little boy. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's so funny.
It's like they have cooties.
Yeah, no, it's like that. But no, back to the bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
Off topic. We'll get there.
No problems at all. I don't entirely remember what I was talking about, but it's all good.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think that moving forward, right, and like looking at the experience that I had at my bar mitzvah, there was, so right after we had like the service, there was actually like this tornado warning that was coming through the area.
Okay.
And I remember we all walked outside the venue and like we're looking up at the clouds, and it's literally like
pillar of light. You're being led by the pillar of light.
well, it's the Feast of Trumpets too, so we're sitting there.
The rapture's coming,
exactly, right? Like everybody's like praying. We're all like, oh my God, there was people speaking in tongues. Like it was like this huge thing, and we're literally all outside just experiencing this huge cloud front coming in and this just insane storm, right? And keep in mind, we're all in tents camping on this property, right? So we ended up like a bunch of people ended up like grabbing their sleeping bags, and we ended up just piling into the venue.
Yeah.
And kind of rode out the storm. So, but yeah, it was very much like the pastor. Everybody was like, rapture, like
yeah.
Not I don't think anybody said it out
like,
loud.
I just turned 13. This can't be happening now. I just became a man.
Right. Well,
no,
I think at that time, man, like I was so bought into God at that time that I was ready for it,
Sure.
like that's the that's the interesting trajectory, I think, when I look back at my short life. It's just that journey, right? Like how many times like I've felt so close to God, and then also the times that I felt like he wasn't anywhere around, and to go from those moments where you literally are like, thinking that he's coming, the second coming, the return,
Sure.
to then, places in my life where it was like, I maybe felt so disgusted with myself or whatever actions that I felt so ashamed and distant from God. I know that he was never gone, but there was definitely things, and times in my life where I felt like there was great distance. But
Sure.
yeah, and I think you had made a joke about this a little bit ago about, I'm 13, I'm a man, I've had my bar mitzvah. I did the same thing like with my parents, man. Like it was like we got home and I was like, I'm a man. Like, what do you mean, Mom? You can't tell me what to do. Like,
Yeah.
I got spanked a lot because of that, bro. Like my dad, well, I didn't get spanked. I just got punished a lot because
Sure.
of that. Because my dad was just like, well, you still have to do what your mother says. Period. You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna keep living in my house, you got to do what your mother says.
I'm moving now.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, well,
I'm going to walk across the road and you're not going to I'm just joking.
yeah. Well, so I was doing construction with my dad at that time too, right?
Yeah.
So like,
Oh, you're a man?
yeah, I was like, I can afford to pay myself and, pay my bills if I move out, and I think I was only making at like 13. I was probably making like $5 an hour.
Yeah.
So
you were not getting
yeah.
you were getting paid there.
I was struggling to wake up in time to go to work with my dad. Like that was something that always blew my mind when it came to me going to work with my dad, is that it was not just like I would get up and run out the door with him. It was like some mornings he would actually physically go up there and like have to wake me up because I was very valuable to him on the job sites. But sometimes I was so exhausted that I was like, I don't have any energy to go to this job
Maybe
site.
he won't remember. Maybe he'll forget about me and just go.
Yeah.
He'll
Yeah.
just go.
When I was 8, it was like if I went or didn't go, it didn't matter to him, But by the time I had gotten to 13, like
You were actually.
yeah, like I knew some stuff.
You were actually.
And I could hold the other end of the board, pull the tape, and I because I was working with my dad so much, we anticipated each other's movements a lot. And I think that was something that he really, really enjoyed. And now, having my own construction business, like knowing how valuable it is to have somebody anticipate your movements is like,
you should want help every once in a while. We do anticipate your moment. Steve got it. Steve got it.
Oh, Steven's working on it.
Like I've already offered my help 20 times, and he did it right before I even got there. Yep, I anticipate he's just gonna do it. That's
a good lesson. I need to learn that lesson sooner than later.
Like, I'm just saying. It's just how many times I'm like, hey, you need help? Boom, it's done. I've did this by myself so many times. Just figured it out.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. Yeah. That's the way it is.
It is. I think there's a scripture verse that I'd like to read that kind of encompasses, some of the content that we would like to create on this podcast and share with people. And it's it's in the book of Proverbs, and it's Proverbs 1. And at my bar mitzvah, one of the other gifts that I was given by, he was just one of the dads. His son was a little bit younger than me, so like he didn't have his bar mitzvah with us. But what he did is he took the first 5 chapters of the book of Proverbs and he printed them out for me and he laminated them. And basically, the first 5 books of Proverbs, what they're basically titled as is the My Son Proverbs, and it's basically the King Solomon. Sorry. He wrote these chapters, and all throughout these chapters, the starting of a verse or something, he'll start it with "my son," and he talks a lot about sons and how we can embrace wisdom. And when he first gave me these, it's like it wasn't money. It wasn't money. It wasn't money, right? Which is so crazy too to think about how we place value on things, right? But he gave me these laminated sheets of paper, right? And I don't think I even read them when he first gave them to me. And they sat on like my shelf for probably like 2 or 3 years. I think I was like 16 when I actually finally was like, let me actually look at these things.
I'm bored. I got nothing to do. Let's look at some scripture.
Right? And so I'm reading through them, and I read all of the chapters, and then on the very back of the last page, the father had actually handwritten a note for me. And
it'd been funny if it was a check.
Right. It's a $1,500 check.
Yeah, expired
right
the day before. So.
Oh my God, that would have been hilarious. But and it meant a lot to me at that time. My family and I, we were going through some pretty rough times, and so being able to read that and just like get that note, and just how much like thought he had put into that gift, right, of trying to give me some type of instruction to help me navigate some of the pitfalls us guys should or want to try to avoid in our lives. And it was that gentleman's always been held in high esteem in my mind ever since I read those verses. But anyway, so it's chapter 1 verse 7. And it is, the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge, but the foolish despise wisdom and instruction. My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. And, being a dad now, I had read this article, and it was talking about basically like religion and faith in modern day America. And essentially, it was talking about how when a child is being raised with a belief system, if the mom is teaching the child, the retention of that faith in that child is very small. They'll believe, they'll feel or think that exists, and some children might even, dive all in, right? And they'll live the rest of their life according to the instructions or the faith of their mother. But this article was saying that, and it was upwards of 50%. I don't remember the exact number, but it was a it is night and day difference.
Sure.
That if that faith, if that way of life, that belief system is being taught by the father, the child is more likely to live that way for the rest of their life. And so, just kind of wrapping up this morning and talking about through that and just really trying to encourage anybody that might be listening to this, that, and especially if you're a father of any child, like the power that you have over that child's trajectory in life is one of the most humbling and beautiful responsibilities that I think that a father could ever be given, or a man in general could ever be given. And I just want to encourage anybody that's listening to this that is a father that, you know, you are more powerful than you can ever imagine.
So what advice would you give then for maybe somebody like it? I mean, it's hard because especially like as a man, if you're working a lot,
Sure.
right? When you get home, you don't have a lot of energy, right? Like there could be like there's I mean, okay, you have energy like until you fall asleep. For us normal people, that
Right.
I mean, he wakes up with 100% energy and he goes to bed. I mean, he probably runs in his sleep. He's probably in your dreams. You're probably running. Okay, that's what you're probably. There's probably no rest. No, so
I dream about sleeping.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
so the thing is that you know when you get home, you can be very tired. You don't have a lot of energy to give to sometimes your wife. You don't have a lot of energy to sometimes give your kids. Just in general, to anybody, you could just be exhausted. So, like, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who is just super exhausted out there? When they get home, they just don't have the energy to, like, pour in. Because, like, as a man, your belief system, it's not just about saying, "Hey, kids, read this, read that." You have to live it. Your kids are going to see more action than they're going to see what you're telling them. If you're not actually living out what you believe in your family, like your kids are probably not going to believe it themselves. Like
Absolutely.
kids are not stupid, and that's in general. And I mean that's if you're not living what you believe, like people, if you're coming through as a false teacher almost, you know what I mean? And so we have to be doing it, but it takes energy to do the action part. Sure. You know, so what kind of advice would you give to somebody that's maybe struggling in that area?
Yeah, I mean, just to be fair to the question, right? I am a new father.
Yeah.
My son is only 16 months old, first child, right? So, like, you know, you have 3 children at home, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Father of 4, right? So, like, I think every parent is going to be, or, you know, there's always going to be variables that could affect this, right? But I think for me personally, I look at everything that I do for work is an example, right? It's like you said, like I want to show my son. So I'll back up a little bit, right? So before Jacob was born, I was really processing like what type of a dad I wanted to be.
Sure.
And I remember my dad, he worked at a factory in a little place called McMinnville, Tennessee. And it was the name of the factory, I think, was Magnavox. He was literally building electrical motors and electric motors. And I think it was like, I want to say it was like 12:30 a.m., right? So like just past midnight, the vehicle that we had was not working properly. And so my dad was walking back and forth to work. Now, it was only like probably like a mile and a half one way,
But
right?
still, I mean, that's
At 12:30 at night, you know, you got to do what you got to do, right?
No,
you
100%.
got 6 kids at home, like you got to do what you got to do, right?
yeah.
And so I remember him walking home from work, and I had stayed up really, you know, and I had built this because it had snowed probably like 1.5 feet of snow, like that. It was like that day, just this, you know, for Tennessee, 1.5 feet of snow is crazy, right? But and that might be an exaggeration. I think I was like 9.
It came up to my head.
Yeah, like you know what I mean. When you're 9, you know what I mean. Like
everything is like
Yeah.
probably some drizzle.
yeah, like 4 inches of snow
Probably didn't
felt
even yeah.
you know massive at that age, you know. But I remember he's walking up the street, and we had this 16-passenger van, and I had packed a bunch of snow to make like this like fortress on top of the van, and I had been making snowballs for probably 2 hours. So I had just this massive arsenal on top of this van.
When he comes home, I'm gonna wreck him.
Waiting for my dad, right? So he clears the hill, and you know, of course, he's probably like 100 yards away from me as I can see him. So he's coming up, and I'm like, poking up above my barricade, waiting for him to get closer, closer, closer. And he finally gets right in front of the van, and he turns to go in the house. And I just start going crazy, started throwing something. And I remember he didn't even have gloves on, but he turns around and starts running, scooping up snow, and just throwing it right back at me, right? And we ended up having this massive snowball fight for like 15 minutes. And my dad could have made a decision there to walk inside. And my dad, trust me, like, shortcomings, definitely was not perfect by any means. But just that moment, it's one of the fondest memories I have as a child, right? And so when you come home from work as a father, you have an opportunity to decide
100%.
how you want that rest of that evening to go. And it's up to you, man.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I mean, because one, you don't know. I mean, your dad could have had the worst day at work, and he had to walk 1.5 miles. I mean, that in itself is powerful, because how many dads out there make excuses? Oh, I can't go to work. I can't do this. I can't do that because I don't have A, B, and C. And your dad stepped up and walked 1 mile to and from work. And then to come home that late and just be like, I mean, I could just think that walk, I just would be dead. You work 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever it is, get home, and then someone's throwing snowballs. Like, it could be so easily for him to turn around and just be not just walk in, but turn around and be mad.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be
Get
frustrated.
aggressive.
It'd be aggressive, and not necessarily
Try to hurt me with snowballs.
Yeah,
right?
like,
you know what I mean? Like,
just something like
take out his frustrations on
like, or spank you, or like,
100%.
And so, like, and it's powerful because, like, if you have kids prior to 10 years old, 8, 9, 10, 1 through that, your kids are gonna stop being happy when you come home. You know what I mean? There's gonna come a time
they're gonna run from you.
They're gonna come a time where they're doing their own thing.
Yeah.
You're gonna come home and they're just gonna be doing their own. I mean, my kid's 6. My one kid that's 6, he's playing some games. There's times that he's locked in. Like, I come home, it's whatever. My 4-year-old still runs. Usually they come up and just hit me, but they
Hey, Dad.
yeah. But that's the story of my life with the boys. My boys are boys. And my wife's always like, stop hitting me and all this stuff. Like, like, they like to, like, fight and play, but there's gonna come a time where that's gonna be gone. Those moments, you know what I mean?
The fighting, maybe not, but
The
the moments,
fighting will
for
always-
sure.
the excitement of you coming home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's going to be gone, believe it or not. And it might not come back until they have their own kids and they're happy to see you later in life. So in those moments, those can set the rest of the tone of your fatherhood in your life forever. Like, if you're someone who comes home all the time and is frustrated and angry and whatever, don't be surprised when your kids stop running up to you. Don't be surprised when that's what you've decided to show them.
Yeah.
And you can dive deeper into your energy to give a little bit. It doesn't take much.
No.
You know what I mean? It doesn't take a whole bunch of energy. It's just that little bit of energy to give to your kids to let them know that they are important to you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is a great story.
I had learned that children learn how to play with others through their relationship with their fathers. So when you think of that little moment of just playing with your child, right, your son specifically, he's getting a chemical reaction that's actually bonding him to you through oxytocin. And that is at its highest levels when you're playing with your son. He gets his highest levels of oxytocin from his mother when they're cuddling, right? So he's not necessarily looking to cuddle with dad a whole lot. He's looking to go explore, right? He's like, I want to get out. I want to go see things. I want to be with my dad. I want to play with my dad, right? So you have a tremendous impact on your child when you decide, even if it's just for 15 minutes, to play with them.
Yeah.
And explore and go pick up rocks and
it's
try
hard
to get
I mean,
them to not taste the rocks that they're picking up, all that.
Oh yeah, you're probably at that age.
I am 100%. Literally, put a rock in his mouth, he'll taste it, And you could tell. I'm like, bro, like, why are you tasting it? Like, you've tasted 20 different rocks. Like
10 minutes ago,
Yeah,
you're on your 20th rock.
Yeah.
You're not gonna better.
they don't taste any different, man.
Yeah, Thatcher. I mean, he's 11 months. He's about to be 1 here in the next 10 days, and he. I mean, yeah, just everything has to go in. Like I have never, and it's hard because you have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. They play with Legos, so there's Legos everywhere. Like I feel like my baby, like 11 months, babies can just like you can have a white room, dust free, and that kid will find something to put in his mouth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like kids will just, and it's funny because we yell at him, Thatcher, get that out of your mouth, and sometimes he'll reach in and pull it out and then put it right back in. But yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah. What are some things that, you've implemented to try to bring that energy home, because with 3 boys, right? Like, what is that? Because it's pretty easy to come home and be like solo dad. I've got one child to give all my attention to. So like if I have 20 minutes of energy, right, it's pretty easy to just focus and give it to that one child, right?
Yeah.
And he's gonna get what he feels like he needed from me because he hasn't seen me all day, right? But when you have 3 boys, it's like
try to spread it out.
Yeah, like what are some things that you've done?
I mean, it's. I mean, I'm still working through just having energy when I get home. But I mean, it just depends on what they're doing. Because I mean, sometimes one kid's like off on his own; he doesn't even care.
Sure.
You know what I mean? He's almost like you probably have kids. A lot of people probably watching this have kids that they're a teenager at 6 years old. You know what I mean? Like they just look like a teenager. You know what I mean? Like they're doing teenage things.
They're over there studying for MIT.
I mean, a lot of times when I get home, they just usually want to show me something.
Sure.
So it's pretty easy because they both have worked on something or they both have done something. So it's pretty easy to do that.
Have you found any like words that they respond best to?
It's funny that you say that because I feel like because we always as parents we fake so much stuff. Like they show you something, wow, that's amazing. You know what I mean? They show you a line on a piece of paper, right? Yeah. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, it's like, and I feel like my 6-year-old is now catching on.
Yeah.
Because I think Thaddeus showed me something that he made. And Theo was like, I forget. I just feel like in that moment, Theo was like, why did you say wow? You know what I mean? It was just whatever, right? I feel like he's catching on to they're going to catch on eventually.
Yeah.
But,
It's like that girlfriend that asks you why you love her. And you're like,
Yeah.
Your son's like, why did you say wow for the 10th time?
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't really that, awesome. You know what I mean?
He's like, Dad, this actually kind of looks real bad.
Yeah. And it's funny what we do with our kids because he gets to a point where you want him to do you want him to go get you something and he won't do it. You're like, let's see how fast you could do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'll go, and then I'll get it. Like if my kid now, this is probably bad parenting, but we do a lot of bribing.
Oh, sure.
The
reward system.
or it's do this or this. But my kids, I mean, at 4 years old, will do that to me. Sure. He'll be like, oh, hey, or he'll do it to himself. Can I have this or this? Or he'll do it I'm not going to do that unless you give me this. Man,
it's become a bartering system.
Yeah, yes. And then we have to be okay, no, you don't have that option, kid. You know what I mean? Let's
renegotiate this contract.
Yeah, no. And kids are smart. Kids are smart. They catch on really fast to your parenting tactics. And I keep telling myself when I look at it, I can't wait till they have kids.
Yeah.
And they're using the same tactics. You know what I mean? It's
or trying different ones. Right? Or that's also what's been something that's kind of fascinating is when I think of my childhood and how I was raised and I take the things that the strategies my parents used and I've evaluated them and do I really want to use that with my child, right? The things that we learned not to do from our parents, right? It's crazy how that is also a factor, right? How your kids develop and grow. I was reading that your child's personality is essentially developed by the age of 5, and their brain is especially from the ages of 1 to 3, every day they're learning so many new things. That's why they need like sleep. Like they don't just want it, like they need it. You know,
My kids don't want sleep, but
they don't want sleep. Oh my God. Well, because
we try to stretch out that nap time. If we could make our 5-year-old, 6-year-old, we try like the 2 to 3 o'clock or whatever, 1 to 3. Like trust me, that goes away really fast. I promise you. There's no nap. Nap times don't happen once they get to like 4, 5. We tried so long. Thaddeus made it pretty long. Theo, but even our 11-month-year-old, I mean, he'll go down for 30 minutes and it's hard.
only 30 minutes.
Sometimes he'll 11 months.
Is he a light sleeper?
Yeah, he does not like to sleep.
So like does like the noises wake him up, or is
Everything.
it just he's
just
just on
does
a
it-
clock where he
like
sleeps for 30 minutes?
Sometimes it'll be
eyes
2
are open.
hours. Sometimes it'll be like he still doesn't sleep through the night. He still does he is like he hates sleep.
Man, you know my most recent niece, she's just the newest version, the newest addition to the family, right?
Yeah, the one I met.
Yeah. She also did not enjoy sleeping, and it was always crazy because, like, you know, my wife and I, our son, basically like a month in, man, he was sleeping almost all the way through the night.
I hope you have another child and it's not that way. So you can experience.
Well, and that's
what,
you know
what you can experience. You know, because it's like people don't understand. It's not like parents that are out there. Like if your kid's not sleeping, it's not your fault.
sure.
Like that's just the batch that you got. You know what I mean? Kind of deal. That's the hand that you were dealt. Some parents get really good sleepers. Like Thaddeus was a decent sleeper. Like he didn't have to be rocked all the time. Like I mean, Thaddeus, like even like before he was in a year, like he would point. Laura said he would point to his bed and be like, "I'm done. I don't want to be held anymore. Put me down."
Yeah.
Theo, like you had to rock him, like you know, you were like a ticking time bomb, and you put him down for 1 second, and then he moves, and you're like, pick him back up. You know what I mean? There was with Theo, it got to a point where, like, I think he was like 8 months old. I was like, Laura, you need to stop going in. I was like, just let him cry, let him literally cry himself.
Yeah.
But what's funny that Theo, oh man, he was so good though, because like what we did is we would put books, like once he started being able to pull up and pull, like we used to put books like right next to the crib. So like he would get up at like 7 or 8 o'clock, but we would wake up, you know, later, like maybe like 9 or 10 o'clock sometimes, and he would just have a bunch of books in this thing. He would crawl up, pull the books in, and that would entertain him for hours. Like until Thaddeus came, like even when we gave Theo a bed before Thaddeus could like get out, we would give Theo a bed. He would not get out of his bed until we went and got him. And there was, I mean, he could, and we told him like, you can get, hey, like we're sleeping, you can play in your room, do whatever,
man. Have fun.
He would not get out of his bed.
You're like, we made this safe for you to
like,
do
let
whatever
us sleep,
you want.
Let us sleep.
Yes,
You do whatever you
please.
want. Theo,
Play in here for 2 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah, like we don't. But we pulled like a lot of like we would put toys and stuff like right by his thing, and he would just pull it in, and he would just read books, and we would go in the morning. It was the great. Then we had Thaddeus, and that all changed. All right. So our audio cut out. Have no idea when. Hopefully it wasn't 30 seconds in.
We're gonna clap, so
No.
that way we know.
No.
No,
It will no, but we can end this and we can talk about more.
Yeah.
I'm not 100. When I go back to the editing, we'll look to see
what we got.
exactly when it cut out. But it was interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go look at it right after this.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's the beauty of these kinds of things, right? So like whatever is supposed to happen will happen. So whatever was caught on the recording is what was meant to be on that first clip.
Yeah,
You know
what it is. So,
And so from this point, you know, to the next or to the end of this podcast, right? Like
thanks for watching.
yeah, is what it is meant
Thanks
to
for
be.
listening, and we'll catch you next week. I mean, I should be good next week. I know I'm going on that trip here.
Yeah.
But next week I'm not. I should still be here. So
Cool.
we'll figure it out.
Awesome.
All right. You guys. Hey, appreciate you guys coming. We don't really have an outro yet. Peace out.